Hey, welcome back to an all-new Season 7 of the MindShare podcast. This is where we share strategies and insights to help you work smarter, build stronger relationships, and create the success that you deserve. This show is proudly sponsored by Kit's Keep in Touch Systems, your ultimate marketing and lead generation CRM. REM Real Estate Magazine, Canada's trusted source for real estate news and insights, and REVEL Realty, redefining real estate with bold marketing, cutting-edge training, and a culture that empowers success. Learn more about our sponsors and download your free copy of the Ultimate Marketing Bundle at mindshare101.com. And while you're there, discover how our full range of services can help take your business to the next level. From one-to-one coaching for personalized growth, to the MindShare Collective group coaching for community-driven success, momentum training to build unstoppable progress, and keynote speaking to inspire and motivate your team. We are here to elevate your game. And while you're at it, learn more about joining the revolution to experience the bold new way that real estate is being redefined. Today's episode is number 319, and we are diving into mastering the ultimate client experience to help you win clients and grow your business. He's a coach and trusted advisor who helps professional service organizations such as law firms, real estate brokerages, and IT service providers transform into world-class service organizations by elevating both client experiences and internal cultures. Through his work with service obsessions, he specializes in creating seamless client journeys, building service-focused teams, and developing customized onboarding and ongoing training programs that ensure excellence at every touchpoint. With a proven track record of aligning internal culture with client-centric strategies, he enables organizations to reduce client churn, improve employee retention, and enhance their market reputation. By uncovering actionable client insights and implementing tailored training and clear, results-driven roadmaps, he equips leaders to exceed expectations, delight clients, and drive long-term growth. Joining me on this episode of the MindShare podcast is special guest, Coach Brad Dick. Brad, welcome to the MindShare podcast.
Thank you very much, Dave. 7 years, eh? Wow.
Dude.
I've been following you for a while, but 7 years have flown by.
Buddy, it's man, when I'm telling you, like, and I know my regular listeners will be like, oh, not this story again. But like, I truly remember day one when I was told by a buddy of mine, I've got to do this podcast.
Mm-hmm.
No idea where I was starting. And I won't tell the story a millionth time because it's probably 2 million times by now.
Mm-hmm.
But I will also say today I was on a call with somebody and we were talking about execution of a brand, really bringing something to life. And in the strategy of it all, we talked about, consistency.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about setting targets. We talked about creating schedules and then creating work back schedules so we can actually be consistent and execute on these things we want to do. And I bring that up in saying the same thing because, all those years ago, this show was taking us as a team 15 hours a week to produce.
Right.
Through consistency, through repetition, through learning, through trying and failing and learning more, this show takes about 5 hours to produce a week.
Right.
And so, 7 years later, man, you learn a little bit and you apply a little bit and you trip on yourself a little bit, but you know what? It is all good, man.
Yeah, well, you guys do a great job.
Well, I thank you, buddy. I do thank you. And I'm excited to get into this conversation with you today. It's something that you and I obviously have some great banter about on a regular basis. So much so that I guess it's a good opportunity to mention that you are now in some way, shape, or form a part of our MindShare 101 community, and folks within our community have the opportunity to connect with you and learn more about what you're doing.
Yes.
And so anybody that is interested, again, visit mindshare101.com, look at training, specifically service. And you will be able to connect with Brad, and we'll mention that a few times throughout the show as well, so that everybody can, figure out where to reach you and connect with you and learn more from you.
Very exciting. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I mean, it's really business agnostic. You touched on it there early on, right in my introduction. The amount of the scope of businesses that come to me, and I worked with a law office not that long ago, a sheriff's office in South Carolina. right? And it was like, really, this, is this something that we want to take on? But man, the impact was massive, right? The community, the community, their feeling about the law office and the way they treat the citizens saw an improvement of 25%, right? And they saw a 47% decrease in complaints from the citizens. So it really is business agnostic, and that's exciting.
That is exciting. So, and we're going to get into a whole bunch of stuff here today, obviously, but I do want to set the stage for everybody tuned in, just briefly sharing about the journey, your journey specifically, what led you to focus on transforming customer experiences, and like, why is this something that really matters to you that much that you spent your days day in and day out doing this?
Oh man, probably a lot like you. I love it. First
Yeah,
off, right?
totally.
I love building human connections. I like getting to know people on a level beyond. We were just joking about it, right? It's very rare that I'll actually ask anyone I come in contact with, "What do you think of the weather?" Right? I want to know people on a much more personal level. I was the VP of a software company for a number of years. Our connection goes back. I worked
Oh
with
yeah.
your wife Jen, and we worked with. While we were there, we were up against massive conglomerates. We were up against Bell, TELUS, right? And we were a small business, a software company. And the only way we were going to compete in that industry really was to be exceptionally better than our competitors, right? We didn't have as big as a team, and really we didn't have the resources. So we journeyed down the road of looking for help with our customer experience. And that put me in touch with the DeJulius Group, who's a company out of Ohio, John DeJulius. Look up his books. Anyone out there listening, watching, he's got a number of really good books, on customer experience. And in that, I got to know the DeJulius Group. And as the pandemic hit, and I think we all sort of questioned what we're doing and where we're going, that business went full remote, and it really wasn't for me. And so my kids had left the house. I was able to travel a little bit more, right? That was enticing as well. And decided, hey, now's the time. I'm going to follow something that I'm really passionate about, and I'm good at it, and start to help other businesses really, shape the customer experience and the employee experience, right? And just get conversations going.
It's so important. I mean, share a couple stories shortly, but as we talk about the customer experience, we hear this term a lot, right?
Mm,
Customer experience.
yeah,
Um, Oftentimes we hear about, when it comes to the phones, right? And the apps, and when people are creating technology, user experience
yeah,
and the UI, the UE. Um, it's a big part of what people remember when they work with us, but how would you define it? Why is it crucial for everybody, from organizations to salespeople, small businesses, large businesses? Why is this such an important thing that people need to understand and really encapsulate into what they're doing on a daily basis?
absolutely. Well, the app and your web page, all that is important, and the experience in that is important. Um, you can't have good customer experience if your product is shit, right? If
Right.
you have a crappy product, if your app is crap, if you name it, if your product is no good, if your support team is not delivering good service, we can't have a good customer experience. The number one thing of great customer experience is that product experience. Okay, so that's the number one. And I've had to walk away from business where it was an app. It was very buggy as we dug into it. Because one of the first things I do is actually dig into the business, right, and
Mhm.
assess where are we. So the actual product itself is the number one thing of customer experience. That's a starting point. The second is the delivery, right? So as you're working with your customers in your coaching, right? What are you delivering, and how are you delivering that? The delivery experience is extremely important. When we're talking about real estate, that's the showings, right? What's that experience like when you do a showing for your customer? What's it like when you're delivering the paperwork and the documents, right? What is that experience like? So the delivery is the second part. It's extremely important. The third part, is where we really start to get into the aspects of a business's experience that isn't commoditized, right? The product and the delivery, most companies do that the same way, right? If I'm buying a car, I can go buy a Ford anywhere, right? I can go buy that Ford Fusion anywhere, and the delivery of that car is typically going to be the same. But as you get into the attitude, the collective attitude of the business, and every contact that your people have with other people outside in the community, that's where it starts to change, right? And so we can actually curate the attitude of the business. And the last part's the relationships, right? Do your people know how to build relationships nowadays? Everyone's got their face down in phones, right? So they're using your app. How do we teach our staff, our employees, how do we as individuals, as an agent that might be listening, or as salespeople that I work with sometimes, it's just about good old-fashioned relationship building. And I'm talking about relationships across the whole company, right? I want when Mary, who's selling her home, calls in and asks a question, that it feels like my whole office is talking about Mary, right? And so we want to build that relationship both with the brokerage, but also as individuals. So, it's really about those four things.
I was going to say, because I remember we had that conversation offline last week, I think it was, but we talked about those four key elements, and you brought that up to me, and I was going to ask you what those four were, and sort of explaining the importance, which you just really did. But can you go back through the bullet point there? And I think that it's important that we highlight that for everybody, what those four are, so that they can then take that look at their business and say, what can I do in my business to look at these four key elements of what we call customer experience and be able to, one, measure what I'm doing, two, look for where I could improve, and three, be able to apply it so that I can raise that level of.
Sure. It's important to always come at it with compassion and empathy and look at it from the customer's point of view. So a lot of times as leaders, when I was the VP of a software company, right, yourself, we look at it from the inside, from ourselves.
Right.
I'll encourage anyone out there, that's running a small business to look at it from the customer's point of view. So look at your product through the eyes of your customer, right? The lens of your customer.
Love that. Yep.
Is your product easy to access? Are you easy to do business with, right? Are you easy to get a hold of? And when I do get that product, does it work the way I expect it to? So there's probably room for improvement in the product, first off, right? And do the same thing with the delivery and look at it from the customer's point of view, but across all the different demographics, right? The delivery of real estate, say in St. Catharines, where your demographics is an older community, right? You've got senior citizens, possibly a spouse just passed away. They may know nothing about selling a house. They may be really nervous, right? How do we make the delivery of that service exceptional to our customers and understanding our customer, right?
Understanding who they are and what they might be expecting. That's an important point, is putting ourselves. I actually said exactly that to somebody today. I said, we know what your purpose is.
Yeah.
Let's now stand in the shoes of the people that you want to help with that and look at you and say, how do I see the value of that for me?
Right. And your customers are all different. So that's why compassion and empathy matters. I want to help this person. We need to attack the service and the delivery of the product with a how can I help you mindset, right? And so that Betty selling a home in St. Catharines, for example, that she's lived in her whole life and her husband just passed away, right? We may actually need to go there more often or send someone there more often. We need to meet her at her level, right? It's maybe completely different for someone who owns and sells multiple condos in Toronto, right? But again, how do we meet that guy or that person where they are to help them as best we can in the delivery process and break that down, right? We actually will map each step along the way, every touch the customer has with a business. We want to look at each one of those, and most businesses may or may not have a customer cycle that's mapped with checklists. I'm a big checklist guy, right? I think you are as well. This is what I got to do today, right? This is when I'm going to do it. So in each step of that the customer has with our business, we want to actually make sure that's mapped out operationally. Operationally, it needs to be excellent, right? But then we also want to look at, how can we deliver specific to our clients, whether they're Toronto and in a massive urban setting, or they're in St. Catharines, right? And we've got a demographics of seniors. How do we actually deliver to them specifically? This is where businesses can start to really affect the customer experience. And then the attitudes, you do the exact same thing. We can We can curate attitudes of businesses, just like, a focus on a culture. What does your company stand for? What are you doing? Why are you doing it is important. We can start to affect the culture by adding things like answering 2 questions. I would encourage your leaders and individuals answer 2 questions for themselves. How do you want your customer to feel emotionally every time you interact with them?
That's a big one. How do you want your customer to feel emotionally every time you interact with them?
Yeah,
Yeah.
when they're done talking to you or even emailing. When I get an email from Dave, I would encourage you to think about how is the person receiving that email going to feel emotionally about that encounter. Right. And the second one is, how do you want them to describe you or an interaction with your business? Because you can curate that. And by focusing on all these things, you can start to curate, that experience. And then relationships, right? And sharing information at your office and putting systems in place to share that information so that we can start to have conversations about our customers that are beyond, data points.
It's an interesting one you bring that up. I go immediately to a set of batting gloves that I recently bought for my son Joshua.
Mhm.
Plays a lot of baseball. And typically speaking, a set of batting gloves are somewhere between, as a good quality pair, 50 to $60.
Mhm.
And there's this, really popular brand that's out there right now. A bunch of the MLB players have begun to wear it. A lot of the kids are wearing it. And it's like it's that cool brand.
Mhm.
Now, quite frankly, the quality is second to none. It's
Right.
fantastic quality.
So
Joshua, hey?
So we got a great product.
We got a great, okay, cool. I like the checkpoints here. So we got a great product.
Mhm.
Price point on them is probably about double what you'd normally pay for a set of batting gloves.
Right.
Which begs the question, why would you even bother?
Mhm.
But at the same time, too, I got this, young man, and I've never bought them for him before. While he sees all the other guys wearing them, and I finally at this point decide I'm going to bite the bullet. And part of one of his holiday gifts is I am going to get him the cool pair. And
Nice.
yes, anybody rolling their eyes, you bought into it all. I did,
Mhm.
I totally did. But you know what? I put a smile on his face,
Cool.
which was I'd pay double for that, right?
Mhm.
But the point is, they're located in the U.S. We're up here in Canada. I
Mhm.
did buy the pair of gloves from their online shop. I finagled to get the shipping done and all that stuff, to a US address, then over to here. And
That's not
by the
easy.
time it all said and done with duties and taxes and shipping and you name it, Brad, I paid close to $200 for these gloves.
Right.
Like, never mind double. I'm paying like 3 times, 4 times the price of a set of batting gloves.
Right.
And again, I know there's a lot of people that went like, is this guy crazy?
Mhm.
But again, the smile was worth it. Okay.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
batting gloves come in, we look at the gloves, and on one of the thumbs, there's like a few little bellishes, like a few little spots.
Yeah.
Yeah, but not ripped, not like whatever, just the coloring of the leather kind of was like
Right.
bellish. What is the word I'm looking for? Anyways,
Blemish.
Jeez. There was a few blemishes on the thumb, like tiny little spots, but I thought, you know what? For the price of the gloves, I'm just going to pose the question on what they would do or how they would deal with it.
Mhm.
And they came back to me and said, no problem. Happy to exchange them for you.
Mhm.
And I went back and I was like, hey, it's kind of crazy for me to like ship them down there and do all this stuff. And we acknowledge the border and the this and the that. And they came back and they said, well, you know what? Our policy is.
Mhm.
And I went, your policy is, huh? Okay. So just acknowledging the situation, is there anything that you'd be willing to do?
Right.
Sorry, our policy is.
Right.
So I went back with another email and I said, totally get it. I completely understand. And I kind of explained to them how, and it's important to note here, okay, because you did the checklist. You started product, great
Yeah.
product,
Mhm.
great product, 100%. Throughout the whole process of shopping for this product, every time I'd put something in the cart or every time I'd get there, they knew that I was there. And the
Yeah.
following days, I'd get emails. Hey, your stuff's still in your shopping cart.
Yeah.
Hey, here's 10% off for that stuff that you wanted. Like, they were amazingly
They
on
got
the
a
ball.
lot of their stuff together.
Awesome. Okay. Awesome.
And they were going to exchange them if you were in the States, but the hiccup was we're here in Canada.
They would have totally exchanged them in the States. All I had to do was literally do the exchange policy and like it would have worked, but I'm up here in Canada and they
Right.
got policies.
Yeah.
So marketing's great, product is great, and then the next thing that happened there was customer service. Prior to the shipping, like prior to actually getting the product, there was a point in time we had this Canada Post strike, and we had this point in time where I had just like messaged them, and it'd been about a week and a half, and I didn't even get a tracking number, so I'd messaged and I said, just checking in on this order.
Yeah.
And they came back and they said to me, they came back within the hour, Brad. And I'm like, wow, you guys are amazing.
Yeah. So along the way, you're loving this. Like
they're crushing every aspect of it.
Never mind. You need to buy these gloves from this company.
Dude,
great.
Then buy the gloves.
Right.
And get a video.
Right.
Used by, they did some AI to put my name in there. Hi, David. But it's the owner of the company essentially personally thanking me for buying the gloves.
Okay.
Talk about a baseball company. They hit it out of the park.
Right. Until.
Here I am talking really well about them. But does anybody here know the name of the company yet?
I do not.
No, exactly.
Yeah, that's unfortunate.
It's so with the policy, the bottom line is they had such a fantastic experience. Everything went over perfectly well. I then had a little bit of a problem. And I'm not saying the customer is always right here. I'm not saying I was like bang on right. I understand the cost to them.
Yeah.
But at the same time, too, it ran me $200. And at this point here, the reality is the company needs to take into consideration that there's going to be a cost to them to try to make it help me out and send me a pair of gloves that's 100% perfect for the price that I paid for the gloves. The problem they've got now is I'm not going to spend money with them again. And again, people could be like, oh, Dave, that's not cool, man. Like they offered you some stuff. They tried to help you out. I know, but I also spent a stupid amount of money. And quite frankly, I'm not going to spend another stupid amount of money in the fear that what if the product shows up again and there might be another little blemish.
Yeah. And we're all human. We all feel the exact same way. And we're all emotional as well, right? As consumers, as people in relationships, overall, we're emotional. We're an emotional group of animals. And so you absolutely, I bet your son didn't even care too much about that blemish. It was just a matter of, I paid a lot of money for these. I'm just going to see what's going on. Right. Yeah. And so, and I also would be willing to bet, Dave, that on the other side, that staff member that got your call and was trying to help you and was like, hey, just send it back. We're going to return it for you. They felt good. They love helping you. And then they hit a spot where they're like, oh, I'm from Canada. And they were like, on the other side, I can't do anything about that. That's just our policy.
That's our policy.
Yeah. A lot of,
and this is the thing though, right? Too many businesses rely on internal policies to reference and expect that the customer on the other end, whether the customer is right or wrong. And I am not sitting here saying customer is always right.
Yeah.
Okay. But the reality is, because they relied on that internal policy, instead of trying to build a relationship, instead of trying to be a little bit more human about it, instead of replying to me and saying, hey, let me look into this. Let me see if there's a solution.
Absolutely.
So here, the question I've got for you then is how can this reliance affect the customer relationship, especially for small teams or individual organizations or individual agents, for them to think, and again, as we said off the top, a lot of individual agents and small business don't have what we call policies.
Yeah.
They just work. They just work to get things done.
A lot of
there's that thing that sits back and says, oh, but I've got to rely on this. I got to weigh on that. We got to come back to what is the longevity and what do people remember from the experience?
Yeah, it's a great question. And it may not be that they have policies, but they probably have procedures, right? And there are rules, right?
Of course.
Yep. We have to have rules in business. There are things we need to protect, some integrity issues, right? We want to protect our brand or our integrity. But the problem with policies is they're a stop. So that person, well, I'm sorry, our policy is simply that we don't deal with Canada, right? Not how can I help you, right? So a lot of times what you want to try and do in your business is make them guidelines, right? And I like to change that language in the business itself. And I do not subscribe to the customer is always right, but
Agreed.
In John's books as well, one of his great quotes that we applied to our business, ultimately was, look, it's not our fault, but it's our problem, right? As a company,
love that.
Yep. We didn't cause this problem. I didn't cause the problem that you live in Canada. It's not my fault, but it is my problem. And I want to do everything I can to help you. I'm sure if they, didn't have that policy that says we don't deal with Canadians, us crazy Canadians up here. We want hockey gloves, not baseball gloves, is probably what they're.
Well,
Well, that person might have tried to actually find a solution for you, right? So we actually, I encourage the development of things like bumpers, essentially, for the business instead of procedures and policies, guidelines, right? Never.
I was going to say, like, to ensure, okay, I was going to bring that up with, to rather than hinder,
yeah,
we want to help.
Yeah. Just, start to build tools we want to build autonomy for our staff, right? If you have to say no, I would love you to come and talk to me about it, because maybe as the, Dave, as the CEO and owner of MindShare, I'm going to do everything I can. Let's find a solution, right?
That's what I was waiting for. Like somebody to be like, you know what, man, listen, like policy says this, but let me try to figure this out.
And what they would have got was your son extremely happy, showing off his gloves. And when the dad came to you and said, man, where'd you get those gloves? I got to get them for my son, Nolan, right? Instead of being like, dude, wait till you go down there maybe and buy them, but I wouldn't order them. Instead, you'd be like, man, these guys hit it out of the park, right? They just sent me a whole new pair. Remember when Amazon, when Amazon first started, my wife at the time ordered something off there, and it was just a website. There was no app, none of that jazz. We had a evening party coming up, and she wanted to order that card game, something against humanity, Cards Against Humanity.
Oh my God, I know the one you're talking about.
She decided to order it off this Amazon website. And at the time I was like, you know what, we're going to get ripped off, but go ahead, let's try it, right? And Amazon was new. No one knew how fantastic they were. We're talking probably 10 years ago, Dave.
That was the day where, like, you say Amazon and they were at your door.
Yeah, right. And it was mostly books. So they just started selling other stuff. It was brand new. We ordered this game. Guess what? It didn't come. It was 2 days now before the party. Didn't show up. And what did I say to Steph? I told you. That's what I expected, right? She called Amazon, and Amazon said, and this is unfortunately, it would have been great if this is what your glove company could have done, was just said, you know what? We're sorry about that. Let me get another set of cards in the mail for you, right? Amazon blew up. And so look, not in all businesses does this make sense, right? And possibly in your glove business, maybe it doesn't make sense, but I have a hard time believing that.
Dude, I'll tell you something. That glove company, which we're just calling the glove company right now, I had a similar situation with or a very different situation with a baseball bat that Joshua was using, where the end cap, the bottom, there was a rattle in the bat.
Yeah.
And again, the bats aren't cheap. So we ended up figuring out that, there's a warranty on the bat. So I reached out to the company. And the company itself, who, by the way, is named Marucci. Notice that one. Okay. I spoke to them and they said, no problem. We'll do an exchange for it. Bat's under warranty. We're going to ship this. You're going to ship the bat back and we're going to go ahead and do it. I said, Dad, that's what I'm calling. I went online and I was going to do the exchange and claim the warranty. And I realized I got to ship it. And by the time I calculated, it's pretty much worth it just for me to buy a new bat up here. Right. I was like, oh, that's not good. Where do you live? I said, up in Canada. He goes, oh. All right, which bat do you have? And I told him the bat. He goes, what's your address? Told him the address. He says, seems like it's sort of the end of the season. I guess he needs this bat for next season. You want a bigger size? I'm like, yeah, you know what? And like the way you do sizing on the bat, I'm like, let's go up a size. Yeah. Perfect, no problem. He says, all right, well, listen, thanks for calling. We'll get that to you shortly. And I'm like, do you need me to do anything? Like, do you need me to send the bat back? He's like, no, you're good. I'm like, so you're just sending me the bat? He's like, yeah. Like, I don't need to send the other one back. He's like, no, it's okay. You're in Canada. Let's just make this easy.
Yeah.
Marucci bats.
Right. Everyone.
What happens there?
Yeah. Right. Yeah, absolutely. Look, the truth of the matter is most salesmen, most people in business, right? Most employees and definitely business owners, leaders, CEOs have this vision of the service that their company can provide. Right. I ask them, it's one of the first things I ask. What's does your team deliver the service that you envision? When you shut your eyes, sit back in your chair, put on some relaxing music and envision your customer doing business with you, does your team deliver that level of service? It sounds to me like the person you got for the bat probably understands.
He crushed it.
understands that vision, and there's the tools in place to deliver that. The truth of the matter is, often even when we look back at the end of the day, right, or the end of the week, as individuals, did I deliver the level of service that I expect myself to deliver? Or as a CEO, as an owner, is my team able to deliver that level of customer experience that you're just talking about right now? Almost always, unless there's a strategy in place for it, unless there's some definition into what am I always going to do with my customers and what am I going to stop doing? I'm never going to say no to my customers ever again. For example, doesn't mean I won't say no. Doesn't mean the answer is not no, but instead I'm not going to make excuses. I'm always, as my own credo, and I have my own credo card, Dave, right? I'm always going to give them options and opportunities and educate them instead of saying no and try to help them. So there's tools and strategies. It really is a strategy. Most leaders don't look at it quite yet as a strategy. They have accounting strategies, they have marketing strategies, they have sales strategies. Customer loyalty is a strategy.
Yep.
And there are tools that we can put in place to give your staff the autonomy and the ability to solve problems like your bat. What was the bat company again?
Marucci Bats.
Right? Like Marucci did, and not
like the batting glove company.
Not like the glove company, right? And so, one of the first things is to start off with 5-10 things that we're never going to do in our business again, or I'm never going to do personally again within my interaction.
I like that action step. So write that down for everybody, right? Tuned in, write that down. And again, we're in the middle of an awesome conversation with Coach Brad Dick, who is helping us learn how to master the ultimate client experience so we can win clients and grow our business. Again, you can learn more from Brad, obviously, on this show. Much the same, you can go over to my site, mindshare101.com, click on training and look at service training. You'll be able to learn more about Brad, what he's doing, how he can help you. So I encourage everybody to do so. Brad, I also got to acknowledge, because I didn't do this off the top of the show, I love that Wendell Clark jersey in the background.
So thank you.
That's like a squirrel for me. Like, I just keep looking at it. I'm like, yeah, Clark, he's the
You don't have one of those, eh?
Dude, I've actually got a signed game worn Clark jersey. You can't see the number 17 on the back. You can see the arms.
Right.
It's autographed right under the C. It's framed the same, and I've got it up in Joshua's room.
All right.
So I got that years ago. That's the one that I've got. But I'd love to get, I've got a Tavares jersey that I wear to the games.
Nice.
Love to get a Martin. Yeah, Martin's a man. He's doing a good job. We could talk about his personality another time, but anyways. Dude, we, interestingly enough, we often try to tell our clients, okay, like from coaching perspective, of feeling comfortable with saying no.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And it's interesting because as you and I talked about this and sort of ran into this show today, with some other conversations together, one of the things that had happened was I started thinking about this thing about no, and you just brought it up a moment ago as well. And I really want to make sure that we draw a line in the sand here, that when I say to any of my clients and to my audiences, learn to say no.
Yeah.
The no is very specific to your time. Okay. Not that you don't want to take the time to make it something right. Not that you don't want to take the time to take care of people, but to understand that in order to achieve our goals, we need to stay focused on where we're supposed to be in that moment of our day.
Yeah.
And so sometimes we're going to get, somebody's going to attempt to take us off course, or somebody's going to need something that we know could probably wait a little bit.
Sure.
And so we've got to be able to be comfortable saying, I can't do it right now.
Absolutely.
But how about?
Yeah, it's not about saying no. Look, when we have a conflict in our calendar, if you ask me to come talk to you today at 1:00, but I'm already booked with a customer, right, with one of my clients, the answer would have had to have been, unfortunately, Dave, are you able to do that on Friday afternoon instead? Right? It's a matter of.
So it's actually still avoiding saying no.
Yeah.
Okay, I like that, because I was going to say to you, why is it so important to avoid saying no? Like, what are some of the risks of overusing that word when we're dealing with people?
No stops us from trying to find a solution, right? So really the answer is no. It's never say no and stop, right? I don't want you to, as my employee, if you work for me, right, I don't want my staff saying no to my customer and that's it. It's the same as hiding behind a policy. I'm sorry, we can't do that. It's our policy.
So how do we turn that into a yes?
I always want to be offering what we can do and educating, right? So we want to take no out of the, I want to take no out of the vocabulary out of a business, right? If you go stay at the Ritz-Carlton, no one in that hotel, no matter how ridiculous the request, is going to say no to you. That's not even in their vocabulary, right? We want to make sure that we're always looking for ways to solve problems and offering what we can do in all interactions with customers. So your bat guy just said, absolutely, let me look after this for you.
Yeah.
Right.
Killed it, man.
The glove person was about to say that until they found out you live in Canada, right? Ultimately, what they should have done, in my opinion, would be training their staff to handle international customers, right? No, we can't just replace it, but here's what we can do for you. Right? Whether it's come up with any option, right? So again, protect your time, right? And if you don't protect your time, you can also harm other customers. So you have to keep that in your back of your mind as well. That's compassion and empathy for all of our customers, right? The other one I don't like as well is no problem. I really encourage leaders and individuals to think of the slang they use when they're working with customers. No problem maybe sounds silly, but it's a double negative. And really, I'm big on trying to take all the negative connotations out of business when it comes to our customers, right?
So by saying no problem, you've actually brought up two negatives.
You brought up two negatives, and as well, really what I'm saying is, Dave, don't worry about it. It is a problem and you're pissing me off, but today, no problem for you. I'll look after it. Right.
Right.
We don't even want you to feel burdened with it. Right. Instead, just say certainly. Absolutely. 100%. That's my pleasure. Let me look after that for you.
So it's an adjustment on the lingo.
How does that feeling change when we talk that? Right. Instead of no problem. Absolutely. Certainly. Let me look after that for you. Right. Remember, one of my questions was, how do you want your customers to feel when they interact with you? So once we define that, so we always want our customers to feel relieved, excited, energetic, whatever it may be. In real estate, we want them to be excited, either for the sale or for the purchase. We want them to be relieved. We want them to be at ease, right? We want them to be calm, confident, all those things, right? If I'm saying things like no problem or no, we can't do that, the energy I'm bringing matters to that question, how I want you to feel, right? The words I use matter, because absolutely no problem. I would love to do that for you, Dave. That feels different. And so that question, how do you want your customers to feel? All these things are part of the curation of that experience your business provides, right? Owning it. We just want to get your staff and ourselves as individuals to own it. I tried to log into your podcast on my Mac. I was telling you, and it said, oh, sorry, we don't work on Safari, right? I could have easily just texted you and said, Dave, what's this crap all about, right? I'm not doing it. The truth of the matter is, you just got to own it. I got to make sure I get on with you, right? And I got to help my customers. I'm going to own it and just look after it. That's what we want all of our staff to do. That's what the great businesses do.
Now, you one time brought up, you talked about creating what the fuck moments.
Yeah.
What are these, and how are they game changers for the client experience? How would we apply that again for our audience?
Yeah, I think I called the moments of wow. You might have, absolutely. What?
Oh, okay. I might have just, thrown some slang into that.
It's those businesses that create that. How did they do that moment, right? Or they actually did that for me. Your glove company or your batting company looked after it. And after your experience with the glove company, you were probably like, man, they're probably not going to do much, right? But you were like, wow, there's a significant difference here, right?
Yes, 100%.
And so why is it different? Again, we're coming back to how do you want your customers to talk about you and what do you want them to feel, right? And emotions in that attitude and relationship category of what customer experience is all about, those are the things people talk about, right? The wow moments, or the what the fuck just happened? How did they do that moments, right? That's not that, doesn't have to be that fantastic. Right? It doesn't have to
so how do we figure out what those are? How would we look internally at our business and say, where could I find that moment? Or does that have to be in a unique moment when that comes up?
No, it's about, again, it's about, it's really about training and strategy within our business and us as individuals, right? So you've noticed I've got a Wendell's Clark jersey, right? You probably go through houses as you prepare to do showings, right? Or even just put a listing up and you're walking through and you see, the kids' room's got tons of trophies and medals. And we find out they played, AAA hockey, and you talk to them about a showing and they happen to say, well, I can't do it that weekend, Dave, because we're traveling down for a big tournament in London. My son's does AAA hockey. He's 10. We're super excited for it. We can't do it that weekend, but we'll do it the next weekend, right? Putting systems in place to share that information around the brokerage, for example, right? So that when that potential client calls in looking for you, we pull that person's name up. Now we can start to share information, right? Oh, I'm going to get Dave for you. By the way, you mentioned your son was going to a AAA tournament. How'd that work out? That's a what the fuck moment for your customer, right? They're talking about me, right? It starts to build relationships and make us feel good. Agents where they're working with, their spouses, right? If you have Jen call up and say, look, I'm just calling you back on behalf of Dave, right? He's out doing a showing right now, but he wanted me to tell you this, or even an email that you send, just asking, how did that tournament turn out?
Yeah.
I remembered you. Yeah. And that just requires a little notebook. I'd carry a notebook around everywhere with me, and I have a system in place to track that information. That alone, it builds relationships, but it also creates what the fuck moments. The other way of building these things comes down to compassion and empathy again. So sitting down as a leader and thinking about who my customers are, right? And what are the things that matter to them. In real estate, if we go back to St. Catharines, where there's possible demographic, right? Selling the family house, what are the things that exist in that person's life that would mean a lot to them if we paid attention, right? And how do we apply that then to our relationship with them as a seller or as a brokerage as a whole, right? Maybe it's we realize they're Toronto Maple Leafs fans, right?
Dude, but that's personalization. Like we talk a lot about personalization and the importance of it.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And there it is again, where salespeople can really take that journey with a client. And this is where, again, for everybody, right? Always tracking notes.
Mm-hmm.
Take notes of the conversations you've had. Take notes of the life events that have happened. Take notes of what you learned about the person on Facebook or Instagram or social medias, whatever. Take notes.
Yeah.
Because the more you take notes on that, the more you're going to be able to leverage those. And I mean, I was pretty sure that you were a Leafs fan, but I didn't know you were like a Clark fan like I am, right? Like that's another thing that we can talk about and tell stories about.
And these things come out of conversation as well. So
that's right.
Many people blur their background, so you may not see it talking to me today. But through course of conversation, you can hang up the phone almost every time and write down something personal. I don't know if you're familiar with FORD, Dave, but FORD's a gret acronym to keep
Family, Occupation, Recreation, Dreams.
Right. To keep top of mind of every person you're in your book of business, for example, right? And those are the things that once you start to incorporate them into your relationships with your customers, your clients, or in the brokerage, right? Once you start to incorporate those things, they create relationships. And this starts to turn customer service from customer satisfaction to customer loyalty, right? These are the people that now refer you more, right? You're going to get more referrals from a loyal customer. And a customer is going to be loyal if they know you, trust you, and like you. So these are tools that we use that you already knew what FORD was, right? And so you start to pick, you want to always be listening for pieces of that or looking for pieces of that. And then as owners of businesses, how do we incorporate that and put tools in place to track that and use it in the future amongst the entire team, right? So I worked with an IT company recently, and they have a support desk, they have a sales team, and they have an on-site support team. So at the point of sale, when that sales team is in the office and they're working with that new customer, they're looking for the Toronto Maple Leafs jerseys, which you don't see often. You see a lot of ex-Hart that's down in New England, a lot of old Hartford fans, but they take that information back and they put it into a CRM, right? And now when the implementation team goes on site, they're swapping out laptops and servers, right? They're taking with them a little piece of FORD.
Yep.
so that they can use that with the customer, and they're going to build on that. This creates a relationship with the customer, and it gives me, as the on-site guy or as the agent or as the broker, when I come in contact with that customer, something to talk about, not the weather.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So yeah, exactly. Right. And I mean, weather always comes up as a whole hum type of topic.
Yes.
Having more to talk about is absolutely crucial. Now as we talk about clients and customers, and we talk about delivering a high level of service and really trying to be there and trying to get away from saying the word no and provide solutions.
Yeah.
What happens when we've got a real difficult client or somebody who is like just looking for the moon, the stars, and the sun?
Yeah.
How do we deal with them or those situations while still trying to keep this level of service at an all-time high so that they, at the end of it all, still say he, she, whatever was amazing?
Yeah. I mean, we all have just difficult customers and clients, right? Again, we're humans. I always come back to compassion and empathy every time, understanding who your customer is. Um, but most difficult customers or let's call it
Mhm.
customer service failures first, occur for a reason, right? Whether it's uh, poor communication or an assumption of communication, or we didn't set expectations right in the first place. These are all operational things, Dave. Right. So this
Yep.
is, if I'm looking at my business, right, I want to assess why that customer became so difficult or was so difficult. By the way, there's some customers that may just not be right for our business, and we need to
Yep.
identify who those people are as well, right?
And that's okay to say no, isn't it?
It's okay. It's okay to what you should know. You shouldn't say no. What you should be saying is,
You just
look,
no, I'm joking.
what you should be saying in that situation is, let me put you in touch with someone who can serve you better. Right? This isn't really our bailiwick.
Okay. All
This is
right.
what
Nice
we do
job on
best,
that. Yep.
and connect them with somebody. Right? So now they're like, okay, they're not talking bad about us, at least. Right? We're moving them on to someone that can service them properly. Again, it's all about, how do you want them to feel about my business? Right? I want to help them regardless. If I have to keep them, right, if they are the right customer for me, but they just happen to be really hard people, let's have that operational checklist that says, we're not going to assume things. We're going to make sure we set expectations, right, with the customer. We're going to make sure we communicate those things clearly. Often it comes down to something operational that's probably failing to stress people out, and then it continues to snowball. That being said, service failure is one of the best places to create a what the fuck moment. And it is
Right.
also one of the best places to stick in people's minds and the, um, adjust the overall image of what your business could actually end up being. So in the gloves, they're expensive gloves. I probably never buy them again. Right. However, in the bat situation, the bat fell apart, wasn't good. The way they provided service in that situation was enormous, game changer for them. You will talk highly about them on your podcast.
And just because of that, and because we're talking highly about them, it is important that I state the bat didn't fall apart. There was a little tiny rattle, and it happened to be from an insignificant little end cap. And I just
Right.
want to state that because as I am talking highly about them, I want to make sure that I don't actually talk negatively and put a bad image on it.
Yeah.
And it's important, right? But
Exactly.
again, look at what the proper
You're defending.
service, look at what the experience did to me.
Yeah, and you're
I'm
defending.
like, no, the bat was great. It's amazing. I'd buy it again. I'd recommend other people buy it. It's a great brand.
Yeah.
That's what it does, right? So
So
how
service recovery isn't good. Excellent service recovery, again, is not a by accident thing. You may have one or two rock stars in your business that can handle customer service problems. It's just in them. It's great customer service in individuals, called service aptitude, comes from your past experience. It comes from how you were raised, and it comes from really, your owning of situations. But not everyone has that, right? So service recovery as well is part of the overall strategy for a great customer experience. We should be training our staff and as individuals thinking about, how am I going to recover in these 5 scenarios where we often drop the ball, right? A, how do we fix it operationally? But B, as well, how do we allow our staff to understand and think like the customer and work to solve that problem? And it's not just enough to correct the problem. because often a service failure causes a lot more grief to us as individuals, because again, we're emotional, than just the dollars and cents situation, right? So how can we go above and beyond in that situation as well, right? And actually really show the customer that their business is valuable to us, right?
So if I'm looking at my business then,
mm,
how can we measure what we're doing from a customer service experience? How can we pinpoint specific areas of improvement?
uh, so obviously there's the usual, right? Customer satisfaction surveys are a big one. There's NPS,
So surveys, okay.
and there is NPS, which I like a lot, Net Promoter Score, right? Which basically is, would you refer us? Are you happy enough with us that you would refer us to somebody else? The nice thing about NPS is it does give you a gauge that you can look up and say, how am I compared to everyone else in the industry, right? But customer satisfaction surveys are great, but we also are given little tidbits of information every time we interact with people in the business, right? And there's nothing wrong with asking on a personal level as well. So customer satisfaction surveys is a great way to do that. The problem is, in my opinion, customer satisfaction is really an archaic and unfortunately sometimes a blinding metric, right? Customer satisfaction means that we're delivering the bare minimum of what the customer expected. They're satisfied, right? I often encourage businesses to look for the things that track loyalty, right? That's going to show us
Such as, give us examples.
loyalty metrics, lifetime value of a customer, right? So how many homes has a customer or client bought and sold with us, for example, right? It's referrals. So starting to track actual where referrals are coming from in the business, who's referring us, right? And how often do we get referred? Mouth to mouth, whether it be, friend to friend or business to business. But referrals is a huge one, because if you're not building loyal customers, right, they're probably not referring you. They're just happy. They're just satisfied, right? Do you have an agent? Yeah, I use Dave. He was all right, right? Not if you ever sell your house, and I know you're not even looking today, Dave. Whenever you go to sell your house, you need to call my friend, because Julie is going to look after you,
Right.
100%. Feel the difference there? There is a big difference.
Big time, big time. One was kind of passive, one was very direct in preemptive. Never mind.
Yep, absolutely. Right. So really, to me, the growth metric, and we see this over and over with businesses, that growth metric exists in referrals. It exists in lifetime value. It exists in attrition, right? So how many of our clients do we never see again, right? How often do we hear from those clients? They're probably engaged in our social media. They're probably engaged in some of our marketing, right? They'll take phone calls with us. They'll go for happy hour. They'll sit down and talk to us. I mean, I'm sure that we often want to just be networking, right? And do those old customers of ours show up to network with us, sit down and have a coffee with us, right? So that's really where the loyalty factor is. And so customer satisfaction is fine, but I believe we need to start, we're starting to see the businesses that grow don't just have like 98% satisfied customers, right? They have high referral and high loyalty rates. There's a loyalty there to us as a business.
Right. And the loyalty is a big one. And I dare say there is very little loyalty in business. I have actually said it from a stage, if you want loyalty, go get a dog. It is a difficult thing to achieve from people. I will say as well, though, and yesterday we were doing I was hosting a training, and I had spoken to the folks that were, attending the training. And I said, what are your deeper values? And one of mine, very much so, are loyalty.
Yeah.
The ability to create loyalty, the ability to be a loyal person, the ability to, through loyalty, I believe that trust and respect are established. And I believe that those go a very long way, because again, you can't buy trust. And once it's very hard to earn trust.
Yeah.
It's very, very, very easy to break that trust.
Yeah.
And when there's an established loyalty, you I would dare assume and say that trust and respect come along with that.
Mhm.
Again, that fosters an incredible environment for opportunity.
Yeah, and loyal customers and clients, they're more patient, they're more
Yep, that's
forgiving,
right.
they're more understanding, right? If all of a sudden something goes wrong in the overall delivery or of the product, a loyal customer is going to be like, ah, it's okay. Dave's going to look after it. Like, this company's got my back. And so all of this thing is all of these things got my back, right? I trust them. I like them. They like me. They know me. All of these things that build loyalty, they're intentional.
Right.
They can be developed and they can be curated. And we do it. And that's why I do what I like. That's why
Yeah, no, it's you can tell you're very passionate about it. So let me ask you this, and if I said to you, for everybody tuned in, what actions could they take immediately to elevate that service level, to elevate that client experience? What could they be doing as they come away from this episode and say, okay, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to sit back right now. I'm going to grab pen to paper. I'm going to take some notes, and I'm going to look at maybe these aspects or these things, or the next time I'm doing an open house, I'm doing a showing, I'm getting together with somebody for a listing presentation or a meeting or any type of Q&A that we're doing.
Yeah.
What what could they do?
We covered a ton of it. I think
We did. I think so, right?
the very first thing is in customer experience, outstanding customer experience is really, it's about compassion and empathy and meeting your customer where they are. So understand your customers. Don't talk about and think about your customer as 165 Crosswaith Avenue. Think of them as Jen and Brad selling their marital home and downsizing. And when you talk about them, talk about Jen and Brad. Don't talk about 165 Crosswaith Avenue.
That's why I tell everybody stop talking about leads, because there's a big buzzword in this industry about getting more leads. I'm like, they're not leads. These are homeowners. These are parents, family members, husbands, wives.
Humanize it. That's
Yeah.
one of the things, because that allows you to build compassion and empathy, right? The second thing is think about the things you want to weed. Think about the way you want your client to feel intentionally and emotionally every time they deal with you. And if you're running a business, how do you want that to be across every encounter they have with your business? Okay. The third question is ask yourself, how do you want your customers to describe their interaction with you? And realizing that once you have those two things, now you can start to articulate to your staff the customer experience you're going to provide, and then start to think about what things based on those two things, those two questions, what are we never going to do anymore? Pick 5, 6, or 10 things and say, guys, we're never going to assume anymore. We're never going to show frustration publicly. We're just going to look after it. We're going to own it, right? I like never show frustration publicly. We're just going to be ducks. We are going to be a team of ducks. And do you know what that means, Dave?
You know what I did? I was like, ducks? What do you mean ducks?
Yeah. So, I mean,
because we reference ducks on like, oh, this is going to go over everybody's head, but like in hockey practice, like if you're a sitting duck, what happens, right? Anyways, sorry, go ahead.
Well, look, we all see ducks on the pond, right? And they look beautiful. They're gliding along in a beautiful, serene, crystal glass setting. That little duck is paddling its fucking balls off underneath the water.
It's funny. I just pictured it. You're right.
It's hustle its feet. And so we want to be a business of ducks, right? We want to be a business of ducks that is just getting stuff done. We're not putting it on the customer. We're going to stop making excuses. We're going to stop saying, I don't know, right? We're going to just offer to do what we can do. We're going to show the customer, what it is, how we can solve their problems. As a business, we're going to always own it. We're going to be prepared. But take those two questions and then create that list of 6 or 7 things that you want to remove from the business that start to curate that feeling of emotion and start to curate how we're going to be described as a business, and build an always for it, because you do have to train your staff as well. And us as individuals, we have to have guideposts. I call them bumpers. If you think of bowling, these are the bumpers that you put in the gutters. So you never do this, but we always do that, right? And then commit it to memory, right? Most businesses have a mission and a purpose statement. The mission statement is grandioso, right? You know, we're going to be the number one mortgage brokerage in Canada. Awesome. As an individual, that doesn't help me with my every moment interaction. A purpose statement, again, most businesses may have that, right? To realize the Canadian dream of owning a home for our customers. Again, that's great, but I can't necessarily affect that as an individual in your business, right? Those are all meant to guide the business for the big decisions that you have to make, or, you know, on our day-to-day interactions with customers as an individual. So really what you're starting to do, what we want to craft, I call it a customer service vision. And that is the articulation of what emotion I want my customers to feel and how I want them to describe me. And that could be as simple as, you know, from a brokerage, it's my turn to serve you. And I'm going to make sure that you give me a thank you every time. Straightforward. And I'm going to do it every time. Right. And build that into the culture, add your list of always and nevers to that, and preach and really start to talk about the emotions that we want to create in our customers and how we want them to describe it and make that part of the culture.
You know, you are obviously very passionate about this topic, and I think it's an important one because, again, this is what sets the tone for what kind of future business we can achieve from, you know, any and all, you know, previous engagements you have with people. Now, you know, you spend your days doing this with groups, with organizations, with businesses, with individuals. You know, I'm curious, though, at the end of the day, when you are done your day and you have finished doing all this stuff and talking to all these people and teaching people and going through the, you know, just the ins and outs of anybody's day, how do you know for you that it's been a successful day?
Well, I like to leave encounters I have with people better. If I can get a smile or I can get an aha moment, I feel like I've done well in the day. I think it's probably a lot like your speaking engagements. It's that moment where, you know, I see a business leader or an individual in a business just have that, aha, I never thought of it that way, right? And it's not hard. It's fairly intuitive, but I help people think a little bit differently, right? That's how I know I've had a good day.
That was you snuck that keyword in there. Help.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I asked this question at the end of every show, and I'm curious to see what people's answers will be.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody talks about money.
Yeah.
We talk about success, we say help. We don't talk money. And it's amazing how that just continues to be a running theme. And to all my audience listeners, and I thank you for being here, I do not precede these questions with my guests. Brad, you had no idea I was going to ask you that question. However, much the same. Again, there was a very, you know, similar answer to, and again, obviously going down your road with what you do. However, again, using that word help came up in the answer to what you see as success. I think that's very cool. And it's a great learning lesson for everybody.
Yeah.
All that said, for anybody that wants to dive deeper into yourself, into service obsessions, where can they find out more? I know, again, I told everybody go to MindShare101.com, click on training. There's definitely a resource there. Is there anything else you want to direct people to today before we take off?
Serviceobsession.com is the company. It is the website, but I'm excited about our partnership, and anyone that's familiar with you, I think they should go to the MindShare 101 and look me up.
Very cool. Well, I encourage everybody to do that. Again, if you are, especially, you know, as an individual small business owner, being a you know, realtor, mortgage broker, anybody who's in sales or running your own businesses, you know, is certainly a lot to learn. And of course, if you're owning an office, a brokerage, an organization, if you lead a team, is certainly even more importantly, definitely tap into what, you know, Brad's knowledge and what he can bring to the organization and how he can help you raise that level of service so that ultimately, it does come back to raising that bottom line.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I think, you know what, as well, just like you, Dave, I like to talk to anybody that likes to talk about this. So even if they just want to reach out to me and shoot the breeze more.
There you go. Cool. Well, we invite everybody to do so. And Brad, thank you. A very, very big thank you to you for joining us today on the MindShare podcast and sharing and helping everybody master the ultimate client experience to win more clients and grow their business.
Absolutely. Go Leafs.
Thanks, man. Yeah, go Leafs. I love it, man. That's it.
Thanks, guys.
You've been listening to the MindShare podcast, whether it's on one of your favorite podcast platforms or directly from my website at mindshare101.com. Of course, while you're there at the website, explore how our full range of services from one-to-one coaching, the MindShare Collective group coaching, momentum training, and keynote speaking can take your business to the next level. Don't forget to download your free copy of the Ultimate Marketing Bundle so that you can build more MindShare to earn more market share, as well as learn more about joining the revolution. For inquiries, just get in touch with us today. And if you enjoyed the show, which I imagine you had to enjoy the show. I mean, how could you not enjoy the show? We want to ask you to please leave a review. Let us know how much you did enjoy by going over to ratethispodcast.com/mindshare101. It will connect you to your favorite podcast platform from your smartphone. We make it super easy. So again, ratethispodcast.com/mindshare101. Real quick URL there. And if we haven't yet, connect with me on Facebook and on TikTok. Yes, we still have TikTok up here in Canada. I know down in the US it's back. Connect with me there at MindShare 101 and connect on Instagram at David Greenspan 101. I want to thank Kits Keep in Touch Systems, REM Magazine, and Revel Realty for their continued support as sponsors of the show. This has been another episode of the MindShare podcast. Thank you for tuning in.